6 rare traits that make you more valuable than gold after 65 years old. I woke up on my 65th birthday with a strange mixture of dread and anticipation. The milestone that once seemed so distant had finally arrived, bringing with it questions I had avoided for years. Was this the beginning of invisibility? Of becoming disposable in a world that worships youth? Society had always sent clear messages about aging women. We become background characters, remembered fondly but rarely sought after. I examined my reflection that morning, noting the lines that mapped my journey and the silver that had overtaken my once auburn hair. What I couldn't see in that mirror was how the coming years would transform my understanding of worth. The revelation that awaited me was both surprising and profound. The qualities that make us truly irreplaceable aren't what I had been led to believe. You might be wondering what changed my perspective so dramatically. The answer lies not in some extraordinary event, but in a series of ordinary moments that gradually revealed a deeper truth about what matters in the long run of life. I first discovered the power of serenity during my daughter Sarah's wedding disaster. The caterer canceled last minute, the best man lost the rings, and rain threatened the outdoor ceremony we had spent months planning. Everyone around me spiraled into panic. Something within me simply shifted that day. Instead of joining the chaos, I found myself becoming strangely calm, focusing on solutions rather than problems. My voice remained steady as I made alternative arrangements, reassured my daughter, and guided the wedding party through the crisis. Later, my son-in-law James confessed, "Mom, I've never seen anyone so composed under pressure. You single-handedly saved our wedding." What he didn't know was that this calmness wasn't my natural state. It was something I had consciously developed after decades of needless worry. You see, true serenity isn't about ignoring problems. It's about developing the wisdom to distinguish between what deserves your energy and what doesn't. When you remain steady while everyone else loses their balance, you become an anchor others desperately need. My friend Eleanor took up skateboarding at 72, much to the amusement of her grandchildren and the horror of her adult children. "Mom, you'll break a hip," they warned. But she simply adjusted her helmet and kept practicing alongside teenagers at the local park. Eleanor's refusal to limit herself based on age stereotypes transformed her from a typical grandmother into someone extraordinary. Her grandchildren brought friends over not out of obligation, but genuine desire to spend time with this fascinating woman who approached life with childlike wonder. I observed how her curiosity kept her mentally sharp, socially connected, and emotionally fulfilled. While many of our peers complained about feeling irrelevant, Eleanor was building meaningful relationships across generations, learning new skills, and experiencing the world with fresh eyes. You might think curiosity is an innate trait. Either you have it or you don't. But I've discovered it's more like a muscle that strengthens with use and atrophies with neglect. Each time you pursue a new interest or seek understanding rather than judgment, you're cultivating this essential quality. For most of my life, I was the woman who couldn't say no, volunteering for every committee, agreeing to last-minute babysitting, and putting my needs last to keep others happy. I wore exhaustion like a badge of honor, mistaking self-sacrifice for virtue. My turning point came when my health finally forced me to reassess my priorities. The doctor's words were clear. Either you reduce your stress or your body will do it for you. Setting boundaries wasn't a choice anymore. It was survival. The first time I declined a request from my sister to watch her grandchildren for a week, I braced for anger or disappointment. Instead, after initial surprise, came something unexpected: respect. "You've always been there for everyone else," she said. "It's about time you put yourself first. Have you noticed how the people who truly care about you respond when you set healthy limits? Those worth keeping in your life adjust, while those who are merely taking advantage gradually fade away. There's a beautiful clarity that comes with learning to say no without guilt. I used to believe making an impact required grand gestures, impressive achievements, or remarkable talents. How wrong I was. The truth revealed itself during my neighbor Robert's struggle with grief after losing his wife of 50 years. No words could ease his pain, so I simply sat with him on his porch, sometimes in complete silence, other times listening as he shared memories. I brought occasional meals, not because cooking was my passion, but because the simple act showed he wasn't alone. Months later, Robert's daughter approached me with tears in her eyes. "Dad says your presence saved him. Not what you said or did. Just knowing someone cared enough to be there consistently." Her words helped me understand the profound power of simply showing up. You don't need exceptional skills to be an irreplaceable presence in someone's life. When you offer genuine attention in a world of distractions, when you create spaces where others feel valued and understood, you become a sanctuary people naturally seek out. If you're enjoying this journey of wisdom and self-discovery, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support helps us share these reflections with others who might need to hear them today. Now, let's continue our exploration of what makes women truly irreplaceable after 65. Last summer, my granddaughter Madison stayed with me for a month. Raised on constant entertainment and digital stimulation, she initially complained about being bored at Grandma's house. I didn't rush to fill every moment with activities or screen time. Instead, I invited her to join me in appreciating life's simple pleasures, watching hummingbirds at the feeder, feeling the satisfaction of kneading bread dough, savoring the perfect ripeness of a peach from the farmer's market. Her resistance gradually softened. By the third week, Madison was pointing out things I hadn't noticed: the way sunlight created patterns through the leaves, the satisfying sound of walking on crunchy autumn leaves. "Grandma," she said one evening, "I think I like being bored with you. Have you forgotten how to enjoy ordinary moments without reaching for your phone?" The ability to find wonder in simplicity isn't just a pleasant trait, it's a form of resistance against a culture that profits from our constant dissatisfaction and search for more. Margaret Johnson lived 3 doors down from me, a retired teacher whose husband left her for a younger woman after 40 years of marriage. The neighborhood expected her to crumble, but Margaret surprised everyone with her response. She neither badmouthed her ex-husband nor pretended the betrayal didn't hurt. Instead, she lived with quiet dignity, continuing her volunteer work at the literacy center, taking solo trips she'd always dreamed of, and maintaining genuine relationships without becoming bitter. When her ex and his new wife encountered financial troubles, Margaret responded with compassion but firm boundaries. "I wish them well," she told me, "but my life is my own now." Her refusal to play victim or martyr earned her more admiration than any amount of anger or retaliation could have. You might face situations that threaten to diminish your sense of worth: rejection, loss, or simply society's dismissive attitude toward aging women. Remember Margaret's example. True self-respect isn't loud or defensive. It's a quiet certainty about your inherent value that no external circumstance can diminish. At 67, Linda Peterson closed her successful accounting firm, sold her suburban home, and moved to coastal Maine to pursue her lifelong dream of becoming an artist. Everyone thought she was having a crisis or losing her mind. "Isn't it a little late to become an artist?" her son asked with concern. Linda's response was perfect. "Better late than never. Besides, I'm not becoming an artist. I've always been one. I'm just finally giving her room to breathe." 3 years later, Linda's watercolor seascapes began selling in local galleries. But the real transformation wasn't her artistic success. It was the vibrant energy she radiated, the passion that made people half her age seek her company and perspective. Have you ever dismissed your own dreams as impractical or too late to pursue? The willingness to reinvent yourself, to honor dormant aspects of your identity at any age, creates a magnetic quality that draws others to your authenticity and courage. In our neighborhood book club, most discussions eventually devolved into gossip or complaints. Then Helen joined after moving from Boston following her retirement as a literature professor. She didn't try to dominate or lecture, but something about her presence changed our dynamic. Helen asked questions that made us think more deeply, shared insights that connected books to life, and listened with such genuine interest that even the quietest members began contributing. She didn't just discuss plots. She helped us explore what the stories revealed about being human. Soon, our meetings ran well past their scheduled end time, with no one wanting to leave. Several members told me privately that they prepared more thoroughly, not to impress Helen, but because her thoughtful engagement inspired them to bring their best selves. When was the last time you experienced a conversation that left you feeling more alive, more connected to yourself and others? The art of meaningful dialogue, asking sincere questions, listening without planning your response, and sharing wisdom without preaching becomes increasingly rare and precious in our world of surface interactions. For decades, I maintained a carefully curated image: the immaculate home, the perfect Christmas gatherings, the flawless appearance. The exhaustion of keeping up these facades was a private burden I carried until my 70th birthday party changed everything. The oven broke, my carefully planned menu was ruined, and unexpected guests arrived while I was still in my bathrobe with uncombed hair. Past versions of myself would have been mortified, but instead, I laughed, ordered pizza, and welcomed everyone into my imperfect reality. To my surprise, that disastrous gathering became legendary among friends and family, the time when authentic connection replaced perfection. My daughter later confessed, "Mom, you've always been amazing, but you were never more lovable than when you stopped trying so hard. You might still believe perfection earns love and respect, but I've discovered the opposite truth. Allowing others to see your humanity, your occasional mess, your vulnerability, your real life beyond the carefully filtered image, creates deeper connections than perfection ever could." Martha and I became friends in our 50s, walking together every morning before work. While I stressed about office politics and family drama, Martha maintained an unshakable equilibrium I couldn't understand until she shared her secret. I've learned to care deeply about few things and let go of the rest. This wasn't indifference or apathy. Martha was passionate about her grandchildren, environmental causes, and supporting domestic violence survivors. But she refused to drain her energy on matters beyond her influence or contrary to her values. When neighborhood conflicts erupted over trivial matters, Martha would smile knowingly. "Is this worth the space it's taking in your mind?" she'd ask when I brought up petty grievances. Her selective caring wasn't selfishness, but strategic conservation of her most precious resource: her energy. How much of your mental and emotional bandwidth is consumed by things that ultimately don't matter? The ability to discern what deserves your care and what doesn't is perhaps the most practical wisdom we can develop, freeing us to invest our limited energy where it creates meaningful impact. My Aunt Sophia never held prestigious positions or accumulated wealth, yet her funeral at 92 drew hundreds of people from all walks of life. The common thread in every tribute was how she preserved and shared stories that would have otherwise been lost. Sophia recorded family histories, community milestones, and personal narratives of ordinary people whose lives intersected with hers. She understood that every person carries unique experiences that, without documentation, disappear forever. Her apartment was filled with journals, recordings, and photographs, not as possessions, but as treasures entrusted to her keeping. "Everyone wants to be remembered," she once told me, "to know their lives mattered enough to be recorded and shared." Through her dedicated listening and documentation, Sophia gave that profound gift to countless individuals who might otherwise have felt their stories weren't important enough to preserve. Have you considered the value of becoming a memory keeper for your family or community? In a culture fixated on youth and the present moment, those who honor the past by preserving its stories become irreplaceable links between generations, carrying forward wisdom that might otherwise be lost. The most challenging wisdom I've had to learn is when to hold on and when to release. My friend Catherine demonstrated this art beautifully when her adult children moved across the country. Her health required giving up beloved activities, and her longtime home became too much to maintain. Where others might have resisted these changes with bitterness, Catherine approached each transition as an opportunity rather than a loss. "Clinging creates suffering," she explained. "I'd rather put my energy into discovering what's possible now instead of mourning what's behind me." When Catherine moved to assisted living, she didn't see it as surrendering independence but gaining a new community. Rather than filling her apartment with all her possessions, she selected only items with genuine meaning, telling me, "Letting go of stuff makes space for experiences." Are you fighting changes that are inevitable, or holding so tightly to how things were that you're missing what could be? The grace with which we navigate transitions, releasing outdated identities, roles, possessions, and even relationships that no longer serve their purpose, determines whether we become bitter or better as we age. I used to worry about my legacy, questioning whether my ordinary life would leave any meaningful mark on the world. This changed after reconnecting with my former neighbor's daughter, Emma, at a community event last year. Emma, now a successful physician, approached me with tears in her eyes. "You probably don't remember," she began, "but when I was 13 and my parents were divorcing, you invited me over every Wednesday for tea. You never pried or offered advice, just created space where I felt safe during the worst time of my life." I barely remembered those afternoons, yet Emma credited them with showing her how to be present for her own patients during their vulnerable moments. "You modeled compassion without intrusion," she explained. "I use what I learned from you every day, though I didn't realize I was learning at the time. Your most significant impact may not come from grand achievements, but from small kindnesses you've forgotten. Moments when you listened without judgment, offered encouragement when someone doubted themselves, or simply demonstrated a way of being that others found healing or inspiring. These invisible legacies, passed person to person, change the world in ways we rarely witness directly. Before we conclude this journey together, I want to invite you to share this video with someone who might need this message today. Every woman deserves to know her increasing value with age. Click subscribe to join our community of wisdom seekers and help spread these truths that our youth-obsessed culture often overlooks. Now let's finish with some final thoughts. The qualities that make us truly irreplaceable have nothing to do with youthful appearance or endless productivity. They emerge through living fully, loving deeply, and continually growing in wisdom and grace. Each line on our faces, each silver strand in our hair, represents lessons learned, storms weathered, and joys embraced. At 65, I didn't become invisible or irrelevant. I began my most authentic chapter. I discovered that the world doesn't need more perfect, polished women trying to hold back time. It needs women who have faced life honestly, who bring calm to chaos, who remain curious, who set healthy boundaries, and who find beauty in ordinary moments. You may not see your own irreplaceable qualities clearly yet. Sometimes we're the last to recognize our unique gifts. But I promise they're there, developing with each experience you navigate and each year you embrace. The question isn't whether you have value, it's whether you'll finally believe in it yourself. Remember that becoming irreplaceable isn't about being indispensable to everyone, but being deeply significant to those whose lives you touch. In this lies the profound freedom and purpose of a woman's life after 65. Not a diminishing, but a magnificent becoming.